Shoulder stands looked impossible to me when I started slacklining. But it turns out that learning shoulder stands on a Rodeoline is just as hard as learning how to walk it. And the nice thing about shoulder stands is that once you know how to do them, you can do them really on any line. So Rodeoline, short highline, long highline, and so on. Are you in? Because if yes, I have more good news. You can start shoulder stands at any point. Whether you've never been on a slackline or you're a Highline Freestyle Pro, you can start. And everyone starts at about the same starting point because they're just so different from standing on a slackline. You also don't need much. You basically need a Rodeoline, a hoodie or something similar to protect your shoulder, soft ground or a crash pad, and optionally a hammock. Before we start, let's look at the most important decision around shoulder stands. You can do shoulder stands on the right shoulder or the left shoulder. At the beginning, both shoulders will probably feel weird, but one feels probably more natural than the other one. Don't use the shoulder that feels more natural. Use the same shoulder as your front foot in normal stance. If you don't know what that is, ask yourself whether you prefer to stand this way or that way, and then use the same shoulder as your front foot in normal stance. If you do Highline Freestyle, or if you pick it up at any point in the future, this will make your life a lot easier because your shoulder stand will work with all of the other things that you do, and transitions into and out of shoulder are much easier. You will of course still be able to do it if you use the other shoulder, but everything will be slightly more complicated. Okay, now that you know this, we can start. To practice shoulder stands, put the Rodeoline up high enough, so about hip high, because this way, no matter how you fall, you should be able to land on your feet, or you can put a crash pad or both. At the beginning, shoulder stands can be quite painful for the shoulder because the muscle is probably not used to having all of your body weight on it, and there are two ways to accommodate. You can either start out on a hammock, which tend to be a lot softer than Rodeolines while behaving similarly, or you can put a hoodie or something similar to protect your shoulder and make it softer. With the basic setup done, let's look at what the end results look like. If you do a shoulder stand on the right shoulder, your right hand is closer to the shoulder than the left hand. The hands are used to balance between forward and backward. Your legs are out wide to the side, they don't need to be straight, and are used to balance between left and right. For shoulder stands, your back is not upright, but you lean slightly backwards. At the beginning, you probably don't lean back far enough, but once you're able to hold it for a few seconds, you're probably gonna lean backwards a lot, because this way your center of gravity is slightly lower, which makes it easier to hold. And then, the more you practice, the more you're probably going to transition naturally to a slightly more upright position again. So how do you get there? There are mainly two ways. Either via pressing yourself up from chest or via jumping into it. For the first variant, you start in chest with the hands already in the right order and the leg of the shoulder already out wide to the side. And then you use the front of the other foot to press yourself up. Try to do this transition quite fast because this is an unstable moment and shoulder at some point will be stable. For the second variant of jumping into it, you start by holding the line already with the hands in the right order, but both feet still on the ground next to the line. Then jump, put your legs up and try to land in the right position. I don't know what will get you quickest to shoulder stands, and it probably varies from person to person. For me, it helped to start by jumping up quite a bit to get a feeling for the position and to also fall to the back sometimes, and then to switch to a more controlled approach over chest. At the beginning, practicing shoulder stands is gonna be weird. You probably don't know how to use your legs to balance, and it might feel like you never will, but it comes over time. It takes quite some practice, but remember that you will be rewarded with a trick that you can do on any line. And of course, there's some pain in the shoulder, but I promise this will get better quickly. If you want to try your newly acquired skills on a Highline, just use the static version of pressing yourself up via chest. A Highline is more flat than a Rodeoline, so it will be harder, but if you can do it confidently on a Rodeoline and also hold for a few seconds, it won't be too long until you figure it out on a Highline. And I will also make a dedicated video on how to start with shoulder stands on a Highline. Thanks for watching, and if you only take one thing from this video, then it's to use the same shoulder as your front foot in normal stance. Don't repeat my mistakes, and I hope that you start enjoying the world upside down from now on. See you next time.